Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call podcast. I am here with Amy Lynn Durham and very excited to introduce her to you today. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And let me just introduce you to the audience. This is a different topic that we're going to be talking about today that I really haven't addressed in my podcast before when I've really focused on all aspects of health. But we spend so much of every day at work and working that why wouldn't we want to create magic at work? And that's what you are all about. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's very much needed in the workplace right now, especially with people coming back to the workplace at higher volumes from pandemic, getting used to maybe working from home and going through that transition. How do we have a workplace that feels healthy and vital to everyone?
I absolutely love that. And so I just want to read your bio for the audience to give a little bit of your background before we dive into your story. But have you ever met someone that can magically combine this serious inner work we all need for maximum results with fun, humor, and magic? Well, Amy Lynn is that woman, and she's sharing her magic with leaders who know that there's more to life than just going to work every day, like a robot and earning a paycheck. She is the founder of Create Magic at Work, where she uses her expertise as an executive coach and a certified spiritual intelligence coach to uniquely blend spirituality and business to help leaders increase courage, confidence, productivity, and decrease stress. Amy draws on her past experiences as a successful corporate executive and shares win-win ways that people can get results by connecting authentically and seeing the humanity in each other. Through her unique ability to create practical tools to ignite human connection, people get immediate results in their businesses and life. And I absolutely love all of that, Amy. You mentioned, a previous corporate life. I was previously in the corporate world too. So I would love for you to share your story as how you, moved through that, came out of the corporate life and got into this work and seeing the need for this work.
Yeah. So I really noticed when I was in my corporate executive position, the loneliness and isolation that some people could feel in the workplace. And I think that was one of the number one contributors to burnout, as opposed to people just assuming that it's workload. And at that time in my life, I had been going through exploring a deeper sense of meaning in my life with spirituality. And so I started bringing these activities to my team in the workplace to help them really foster human connection, to prove that when you do that, it actually increases productivity and profitability. But it takes the leader to be courageous and vulnerable in that way, to bring those activities to the table. So I did that. I left my corporate executive job and I went to UC Berkeley, got my executive coaching certification through the Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute, and started my brand, Create Magic at Work. Put all those field tested activities I did with my teams for that publicly traded company I worked for in my book, Create Magic at Work. And I purposely made it whimsical and magical. And I purposely made it have a childlike feel to help bring some life back to leadership in the workplace.
I love that. I love the idea of bringing that magic back and having that childlike feel because a lot of the work that I've been doing lately is in relation to the unconscious mind, which
Mm,
is also all about imagination and play, but also ease, right? And what you're creating is ease in the workforce where it feels good to go to work and we want to be there and we get joy out of our work. And that's what I'm creating for people. And how interesting that it's all coming down to play. And we think when we grow up, we have to release that. We have to be serious and we have to be adults. And yet we get so much joy when we continue to allow our inner child out. And it's very funny because I was watching my own daughter do this. Last week, we went cross country skiing together, and she's almost 25, and she still very much has her inner child alive. And I love
mm.
seeing it. And it was snowing, and there was all this fresh snow. And instead of staying on the track, she decided she was going to go through the big island of snow in the middle. And then it was so soft and fluffy. She's like, I'm going to fall down on purpose. And I hope I can get back up. And so she fell down on purpose. And then she couldn't get back up because it was so soft and her cross country ski poles were so long. She just couldn't get back up. And I didn't want to go into the middle after her and have the same thing happen. So I was standing there watching her and she decided, I'm going to swim to the edge back to the path so I can stand up on the path. And so there she is at cross country skiing. And I have video footage of her swimming her way through. Right? We were both laughing our heads off hysterically, having so much fun. And, we can bring this into the workplace too, just this silliness. And it, reduces stress, etc. And as you mentioned, the productivity improves. So I love the idea of creating magic at work through play.
Yes.
And so keep sharing.
Yeah. So just to touch on playfulness a little bit more, I mean, that's a key quality that a leader can skill build in if we want to make it work related, that really can help you tap into innovation and what your passion is and help you focus on creating an innovative future. Really skill building and that quality of playfulness. I don't know if you're familiar with edge walkers, but I'm an edge walker facilitator as well. And that's one of the qualities, leadership qualities that I facilitate is playfulness. And the create magic at work activities, they tap into a part of your brain that accesses your spiritual intelligence. So it's different. Neuroscientists, they do feel it's a different part of the brain than where emotional intelligence comes from.
Right.
And so that's really fun because it frees you up to feel like you don't have to be a hard leader. You don't have to rise and grind, as they say.
Right.
You can, right? Oh, trust me, I've seen it in a lot more corporate chats than I would care to have seen it in. We're having this. I'm going to get off track, but we're having this conversation on International Women's Day, and I just flashed. You just had me flash to when I was in a very intense sales environment in my former corporate executive job. Lots of masculine energy. And, there was the rise and grind. There was the wake up every morning with your gym selfie in the chat or the push-up challenge, like those types of things. So really what those spaces needed and frankly were craving were things like this.
Right.
About a balance.
Yes.
And someone like me to step in and give them a safe space to do it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you have the courage to do that as well, because it is going against what we've all been raised with in that corporate world of do more, work harder, stay there longer, get the job done. And as opposed to taking the easy way where we bring in the fun, that everything can be more in flow rather than grind, grind, grind.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is we've been placed in, many of us, not all, but many of us have been placed in systems, work systems that are antiquated, and they don't really cater to what we need today as human beings to thrive. They're old systems that, in my opinion, need to shift and transform to where people feel like they're having a healthy, elevated, uplifting life when they come to work. And part of the Create Magic, I'll just share part of some of the Create Magic at Work tools are like journaling, right? That's a common recommend for people. But I call it journaling with a twist. Mm-hmm. So I would gather a group of men and have them close their eyes and pull a card from my journal prompt. I have a journal prompt card deck. It's for your career and your workplace. It's got an affirmation on it, a couple coaching questions, beautiful illustrations, and they would pull a card meant for them.
Right.
And no one has ever given them an opportunity to do that kind of thing at a meeting. And when they do, and they get the message that's meant for them, chills, feelings. And when you give them an opportunity to sit with that and tap into their higher self, which is their inner wisdom, their inner compassion and spiritual intelligence, and then they can share what they tapped into, very transformational, much more transformational than 2 hours breaking down an Excel spreadsheet. That moment, that 10 minutes you might spend doing that activity is nowhere near a waste of time. It brings quantum leadership into the space, and it completely opens up a different part of someone's brain that can access creativity, playfulness, but oh, by the way, that's innovation, right? And inspiration.
Yes. I absolutely love that. Love, love, love that. So powerful.
It is.
Now, how can one go beyond emotional intelligence to become that true servant leader that you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I can give you the data first. In the adult development theory, they find that one can really develop their emotional intelligence in their early to mid-20s. By the time they reach there, it's the part where you can really start exercising compassion for others in a deep way. When you hit your early to mid 30s, and again, I'm generalizing, right? We're all human. There's going to be outliers. That's the time in your life where you really start pondering, why am I here? What am I doing in my life? What's my life purpose? Am I living it? Am I living in alignment with who I think I am and who I think I want to be? And what does that look like? And that's spiritual intelligence,
right?
Is tapping into that deeper sense of meaning in life. And when you start skill building in spiritual intelligence, and in these skills, there's 21 skills. It's a faith neutral practice that it's for the workplace. That's the framework I use in my coaching practice. I'm a certified SQ21 coach. When you start skill building in these areas, what they do is they give you the ability to maintain inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation you're in, even under great stress. And they give you the ability to make wise and compassionate decisions for yourself and others during that time. So servant leadership, to the second part of your question, I have a podcast, Create Magic at Work, under the brand. And for the first 2 seasons, I asked every single guest what servant leadership meant to them. And I got all kinds of different answers. The common leadership answer that comes from, and again, I'm generalizing, from the workplace is, oh, I'm here for my team. I'm here for my shareholders. I'm customer service to my team. Great, right? However, what I would like us to do for our own well-being for selfish reasons is take that a step further and move from servant leader to quantum leader.
Mm.
And the quantum leader cares about the ripple effect that they're leaving on the planet, in their communities, and for humanity itself when the quantum leader makes decisions. And that's why skill building in these areas is so important, because it allows you to be a wise and compassionate leader, which, oh, by the way, that's the number one way to decrease burnout in the workplace.
Yes.
Is to have leaders that are wise and compassionate. Yeah, it could be workload. Yeah, it could be loneliness and isolation. But the number one way to decrease all of that is to have wise and compassionate leaders. And you have to be both. If you're a wise and compassionate leader, if you skill build in that area, burnout decreases by 64%.
That's
phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's where this obviously ties directly back to our health, which is what my podcast is normally focused on, but why I knew you'd still be a great fit for the show. And I wanted to address this topic because stress is the reason for 95% of doctor's visits. And 60% of disease can be tied back to the stress in someone's life. Obviously, someone who's in a state of burnout, their adrenals are shot and they've been under such state of chronic stress for such a long time that the body is literally shutting down to get them to stop and do something differently. And even earlier, when you were talking about the spiritual side of it and those skills, the spiritual 21 skills of learning to be able to find a place of inner and outer peace, no matter how stressful the situation was, and then to be able to make wise and compassionate decisions, that all of that directly ties into not only your happiness at work and the joy that you have, but your long-term health. And my mission is to reduce the chronic illness that we have in the world today. Again, triggered by stress, right? So you addressing this in the workplace is profound, because if we can spread that message in the workplace and people can see the results and feel it in their bodies, because we know when we're in that state of chronic stress, sometimes we get so used to it that we can't tell what it is anymore. But as soon as we get out of it, we can feel the difference of our nervous system that's all jacked up and literally vibrating versus that calm nervous system. And so I absolutely love this work that you're doing, because it has the ripple effect of the work that you're doing is profound on the person's mental state and physical state and spiritual state.
Yeah, thank you. I love how you tied that all in. You just reminded me of when you're sharing all that. I just felt, if there's leaders listening, or if you are responsible for doing this work. I mean, candidly, you're if you are if you have a team and people are under your charge, you are responsible for the send, for the way you lead, and for that ripple effect that you send out, because your energy can magnify 10 times over to your team.
Absolutely.
And so the way you were talking about it, Melissa, this chronic stress, do you want to be, this is going to sound really harsh right now, but I'm just thinking out loud here. I mean, do you want to be responsible for that type of impact? Or do you want to be a wise and compassionate leader that works on yourself, that cleans up your side of the street, that steps into this experience and gets the benefits anyways of having inner and outer peace, making wise and compassionate decisions, and then that ripples to your team? I was just talking to an old colleague this morning on the phone, and they were mentioning, oh my gosh, they're in a different role now. And they were mentioning a really tough work environment that we were in. I'm talking tough, like boiler room type, and they were like, I look back and I think I was getting a cortisol hit every time my boss was texting me or calling me, just the stress immediately with that ping on the phone. My hope is, one, that we have leaders that don't want to create cortisol hits with people.
Yes.
The stress hit, we want them to focus on alleviating stress, because when someone's stressed out, they can't you mentioned it, they're immobilized.
Yes, exactly.
They're not going to operate at peak for you anyway.
Absolutely not. They can't focus. And then
Right.
people think they should be multitasking, and which isn't a thing either. That doesn't
Exactly.
help. But when we're so stressed out, we can't even calm the brain enough to be able to focus for 20 minutes to get something done. So what should take 20 minutes now takes an hour, and isn't even the quality of work that it would be if we were calm enough to just sit and do it in 20 minutes.
Yes, 100%. It's scientists have termed it task switching, and it's no good, no good. So I guess, do you want to be, so my idea, my hope is that we're starting to see people making choices that they didn't make before about where they want to work and what they want to do at a higher level. And so my hope is that leaders that step into this work, that want to be a quantum leader, that want to be wise and compassionate and help have this ripple effect and decrease burnout by 64%. My hope is that people will start stepping into working for those individuals that do the work. And then, frankly, by default, these other systems will hopefully just kind of fade away. That's my thought.
I would love to see that happen. And who wouldn't want to be that type of a leader, really, right? You get all the benefits, and you know that you're looking after your employees' health and longevity.
Correct.
And then who wouldn't want to be an employee working for that type of leader, where you know you're supported and you are feeling good in your body and you're not on vibrate mode, and you enjoy the magic that is being created at work and the support that you're getting from that leader. And societally, maybe we've come out of that era of, bosses having to be harsh and holding people to it and push, and thinking that that was the only way you could get your employees to perform.
Yeah. I mean, it's one way, but yeah, it's one way, but it has damaging effects.
Absolutely. And a 64% burnout rate. And then,
right.
The company is paying money to replace those people, and you've got, costs of supporting that person who's on burnout and some kind of, leave, et cetera, It's not worth it. It's worth it. And how many people are actually in that situation right now, that if you're listening to this podcast and you go to work every morning hating your job, to know that it doesn't have to be that way. And that you can choose to do something differently. You can choose to learn some of these skills, because you might be managing people. And maybe even in just learning these skills for yourself, that you are developing in such a way that you maybe don't hate your job so much anymore, because you found a way to work through it for yourself, and now you're supporting your employees. And the connection that you build with your employees makes your job more enjoyable.
Yes.
So you don't have to be the top boss to do this.
Correct.
You can just do this for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Powerful.
Very good. Very good. Very powerful. And just to add to that, when you start doing this for yourself, it's a practice. It's a daily practice. I say it's a daily practice, and it's a life journey. And it's not all clean and rainbows and ice cream and puppy dogs
and unicorns.
Right? Sometimes it is. Other times there's situations that will present themselves that allow you to practice.
There's the mess to work through.
There's the mess.
There's the mess.
Yeah,
right?
There's the mess.
We all have the mess.
Yes. And what I try to remind everyone is, you say, thank you for the practice. Thank you for the lesson. I'll try again tomorrow. Because you don't want to get stuck to where you're beating yourself up in the practice. So it's recognize, repair, recover,
right.
Radical self-forgiveness as you move through the experience or go through the path. Yeah.
I love that. Really great reminder. Really great reminder. So, what are some practical tools that people can use to help their teams become more vulnerable and courageous?
Yeah, super practical. I mean, this is not a plug. I literally wrote Create Magic at Work for like that beer drinking golf guy I used to work with that had the biggest heart, but just needed to grab something or have something to reference because they didn't know where to start. Right.
Right.
So the book is filled with just very small ways that you can start with activities. I mentioned the journaling with a twist. That's a really fun one.
Yeah.
Where you can just do some journal prompts. I also have an activity where you light some paper, you write your goals or your intentions on flying wish paper. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. And you light it on fire and send it up into the air. That's part of there's some flying wish paper that comes with the book, Create Magic at Work, that you can utilize. I've done that with groups of people. It just has that wow factor and that feeling of unburdening and letting go. Right. It just adds that little extra there.
I haven't done lighting wish paper. I've done the burning what you no longer want, which also has that same feeling of lighting and release, etc., and moving away from what's been holding you back.
Mm-hmm. So good.
I love that idea too.
And even more impactful if you have created safety within your teams and have them share before they light it on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you get, when you buy the Create Magic at Work, you get a free flying wish paper kit that you can play around with from the website, just so you know, if you want to try that. There's so many different things you can do. These are the fun activities from Create Magic at Work that you can do with teams, but there's a lot more deep inner work exercises from a spiritual intelligence lens for making wise and compassionate decisions that, I walk my clients through as well. But tapping into playfulness, like all of these activities will tap into playfulness.
Right.
Absolutely. I know we talked about that person that was driving to work that might, not be so happy with where they're at today with their job, or they might not be enjoying it very much. And there's a couple of things. There's one from the book that I offer, which is a emotional intelligence type activity that you can do. And it's creating an appreciation anchor. So it's part of having an emotional management strategy. So if you're at work and you're feeling like my colleague that said I get a cortisol hit every time my boss is calling me or an email comes through, one way to push back on your negativity bias when you're feeling anxiety is to have an appreciation anchor, something you can hold on to, something you can reference. I have clients that use a photo of their family. I use crystals. I'm talking to you right now holding 2 crystals in my hand just to kind of anchor me down and feel like I have an appreciation anchor and they have intention behind them. So I do appreciation anchors for companies, different crystal recipes, positivity pouches, different things like that. So there's another one. And then I do have the free activity that I offered your listeners and your audience, which is that same person you talked about that is, oh my gosh, I hate my job, or I just can't, I don't know what I'm doing here. I might need a change, all of those things. It's called 3 Steps to Love Your Job and Life Today. And it helps you dive into what's really important for you today and help you feel that the grass is green right here. And then once you kind of dip into that feeling of gratitude for where you're at today and how you can make your life the way you envision it today, it'll help you shift into alignment with that future self that you really want to be. And that's on the website. And I gave you that info. So
thank you. Yes, I've definitely have that in the show notes, and really appreciate that generous gift, because unfortunately there are so many people in that place today. The level of disengagement in work is the highest it's ever been, right? And obviously, coming through the pandemic didn't help, and people working from home, some still are, some are now coming back to the office or forced back to the office, and they got used to working from home and they like it. And there's so many factors that you alluded to earlier in our conversation. And so the level of disengagement is so high. And People are feeling stuck. And so I really appreciate this work that you're doing and this gift that you've offered the audience to help people, as you say, see that the grass is green right here and be able to envision moving themselves into that future self that they're looking to be, and that they can do it. And they don't have to feel like they have cement weights on their feet holding them stuck in this one job, because it isn't the only option. But you need to grow in order to fill the gaps, in order to see the opportunities that are beyond where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it pulls that particular activity pulls you out of a someday mindset. Someday I'll take this vacation. Someday I'll get out of this job that doesn't light me up inside.
Right.
That will help give you some support and be a resource for pulling you out of that someday mindset and help you shift a little bit. And of course, if you're someone that feels the way you just described, that cement stuck type feeling, I really encourage you to reach out for support from a coach, from someone, use the free resource, something to help you shift a little bit.
And get your book, read the book. That's just a really easy starting place. Create Magic at Work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. I've got some of the book reviews are so funny. They say, I wish I could secretly leave this book on my boss's desk. I've had multiple book reviews that say that, and I'm like, well, do it,
exactly.
just like leave it. Nobody's gonna know.
Just do it. Yeah, exactly. I love that. Awesome. And so happy to hear book reviews like that. But also for that individual to know you can leave it on your boss's desk, but you can do it for yourself too.
Very true.
And then that's, bringing this new culture into the workplace from multiple points, which means it's even more effective.
Yep. You are a leader no matter what your title is in your life.
Exactly. Love it. And one last question for you. What can someone do if they are seeking a deeper sense of meaning in their life?
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, if you're just wanting to dip your toes into spiritual intelligence, I think listening to my podcast would be really good, because that theme runs through the whole thing. If you're really wanting to dive into, I'm ready for this deeper sense of meaning, I want to get in alignment with who I really want to be, then of course I do one-on-one coaching experiences. It's called the SQ Experience Journey, and I can really help you shift into that space.
Love it. Love it. So as we wrap up, I love to ask every single guest the same question as you did for the first 2 years of your podcast. And what does "don't wait for your wake-up call" mean to you?
Yeah. Immediately, when you ask me that, I thought of that phrase that says, if you don't hear the universe when it whispers to you, it's going to start screaming. And so listen for the whispers and listen to the whispers, because you don't want to get to the point to where it's screaming, because then that's a huge wake-up call. I've been through it myself, right? We can't do this work without having gone on the journey ourselves or done the work ourselves.
Exactly.
And I've ignored some whispers, and I've had some big screams. And listen to the whispers. You talked about body and illness. That's the same thing. Listen to your body when it whispers, because if you don't, it's going to scream. And we want to listen to the whispers first. So, yeah.
I love it. And I say something very similar. I say, listen to the whispers so it doesn't have to yell at you. Yes. The symptoms in the body are the whispers. They're the body's way of talking to us and asking us to do something different.
Love it. Yeah. So good.
Wonderful. So how can people get hold of you?
Oh, so createmagicatwork.net. It's .net.
Okay.
You can go there. There's all sorts of fun things to click around with and play with there. And then I love LinkedIn. So because I work with leaders in the workplace. So Amy Lynn Durham on LinkedIn. And then Instagram is Create Magic at Work. So that's sort of the creative, playful space that I like to play around with fun posts. So yeah, join me anywhere.
Yeah, wonderful. We'll make sure all of that is in the show notes along with your very generous gift, as I said. So thank you very, very much for coming on the show. Is there any last message you'd like to leave the audience with to motivate them to step into this work today?
Yeah. That's so funny you just said today, because I was just thinking, like, don't wait for your someday.
Right.
Right. Don't wait for your someday. I think that's really important, that there's time. And if you're curious about this, reach out to me, because it will help you navigate your life in a more peaceful way when dealing with stress, and maybe even shift you into a life you couldn't have possibly imagined for yourself.
Yeah. And I would say that's more than a maybe. I'm sure that it will shift you into a life that you couldn't possibly have imagined for yourself.
I agree with you, but I didn't want to offer any guarantees in the conversation.
Well, you have to do the work.
Correct.
If you don't do the work, then you may not get the results. But when you do the work, you'll get the results.
Absolutely.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Amy Lynn, for being on the show. I absolutely love the work that you're doing, and that, by focusing on the workplace where we do spend 8 hours a day, if not more, that's such a critical space to when we fix that, where the ripple effect is beneficial to our entire life, to our health, to our relationships, to our finances, to everything. So if you're not happy in that workplace, reach out to Amy, get her book, and create magic at work for yourself, because you're worth it. So thanks for joining us. Thank you to all of my listeners for showing up every week. And if this episode resonated with you, or you know someone that needs to hear it, because you probably do know someone who complains about their job, share this episode with them. And thank you, as always, for being here.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying my content and someone that wants to step into being proactive in your health and learning more, I would love to invite you to join my membership community. There's a link in the show notes. For only $19.99 a month, you get access to all of my content, and there's a lot, as well as weekly calls that you can come and get your health questions answered. It's truly priceless. I'd love to see you join the community. Check out the link in the show notes.